Hello and welcome to Wingin It. And we're back with more Oceania expansion content. In this video, I am joined by Tay from Tuck and Cash. How are you doing today, Tay?
I'm doing very well.
Excellent. Good
How
to
are
have you
you?
here. Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm very excited for the Oceania expansion. And one of the reasons I'm excited is because we have a brand new type of power. We have these yellow game end powers. So what we thought we would do for you here today is take a bit of a look through these, because we've got some very interesting different varieties of powers that are hopefully going to help you score some points at the end of the game. So yeah, 16 birds in total. Let's get stuck in. So we're going to go in alphabetical order, and we start here with the Australasian Pippet. So this is, of course, a game end power. It is a tucking power. You tuck a card from the deck behind each bird in your grasslands, including this one. So potentially could be a good way of getting some points if you've already got your grasslands built up at the end of the game. What do you think of this bird, Tay?
I think this looked like kind of a middle of the road game end power for me. You know, if you think about it, in grassland, if you have 5 birds, you can tuck 5 cards, so that's 8 points total for 2 food. I think it's just average return, I guess, for most birds that have no other brown power.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a safe play. I mean, like you said, if you're filling up your grasslands, you know what to expect from this power. Feels like one that maybe if you've got the right kind of bonus cards, if you've got bird counter, you know, if you've got prairie manager, if you've got behaviorist maybe, or orthologist, and you're looking for a different power color. Of course, only 16 yellow birds in here, so maybe your options are a little bit more limited than, say, with the white and no power birds, or the brown powers, or those other color powers. So yeah, situationally could be amazing. Probably not necessarily going to get too much
like
action.
you say, safe play.
Definitely feels that way. So moving on, next bird. It's another Australian bird, of course, in the Oceania expansion. What a surprise. Here we've got the Australian Magpie. So very interesting power. Again in the grasslands. This time you're discarding 1 egg from each bird in this row and column. And yeah, you then get 2 caches, 2 seeds on this bird from the supply for each egg you discard. So bit of a weird power. Definitely sort of encouraging you to lay eggs and spread your eggs out a little bit, and turn those into seeds. So yeah, is this kind of something that maybe is again going to be situational, or is this always going to be good?
I don't know. I'm really not a fan of this bird. Whenever I came across this bird, I just get, you know, like lost with all the text of the game end power. That looks like so much planning, and the food costs like 3 food costs.
Yeah, it seems expensive. I mean, you know, like you say, 3 food, only 4 points. And those double rodents, I suppose if you've got nectar coming into play, you might be able to afford this a little bit more easily. But yeah, I mean, again, you think about that Pippet we talked about, you know, you're maxing out at 5 tucks there. I suppose here you're maxing out at 6 additional points because you might lose those 6 eggs. But then you gain 12 caches. So again, it's probably going to be one where if you've got rodentologist, if you've got prairie manager, if you need a yellow power in there somewhere, this could be good. I think I have actually played this quite a few times in the games that come up. Yeah, definitely more than once. So maybe I'm getting distracted by the caches that it gets. But yeah, again, probably just maybe a little bit situational depending on your board layout. And yeah, moving on, next bird, more Australian birds. We've got the Australian raven this time. So much bigger point birds and a much simpler power. So you cache up to 5 food from your supply on this bird. So yeah, what kind of situations do you think this one could be useful in?
I mean, if I have to compare the 2 birds, I'll definitely leaning towards playing the raven because there's just a lot more bonus card you can score with this bird, right? With omnivore, with rodentologist, and like you say, the power is a lot more straightforward, and you got 7 points to start with, so that's a no-brainer for me, better than the Magpie.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, I think whenever I see a bird like this that has the rodent and the omnivore food cost, I'm always thinking, you know, this is going to be great for some bonus cards. Already 7 points and can go anywhere. I think if you're running a forest engine or anything where you're going to have a bit of food left over, you know, you can think about this as maybe being worth 12 points if you're getting those 5 caches as well. So definitely strong, and yeah, definitely I can see this this bird getting a bit of action in my games. Moving on to our next bird, we have here the Black Swan. So this is our first egg laying game end power. You get to lay one egg on each of your birds with a wingspan over 100 centimeters, including this one. So potential for lots of eggs, but might be quite difficult to get those kind of birds down, I suppose, in the game.
Yeah, but I think this is one of the better one for egg laying game end power because of the 6-point base point, and the food is a lot more flexible. Right. I mean, I have good experience with this bird in quite a few games.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, there's definitely some appeal in the additional points that you get. I feel like there might be some synergy here. If you've got the large bird specialist, you're already going to be trying to play those large birds. Normally, those kind of birds with big wingspans, those are going to be worth lots of points. I can think of plenty of those birds going in the wetlands that get you the bonus cards as well that you kind of want to play. And if you know that you're going to get an extra point from this game end power, can definitely be appealing. Just 1 point on this with the egg laying powers at the game end. How difficult do you think that is going to be to manage? Of course, you've got to try and think about your egg space a little bit more. You're coming to the end of the game, but this is going to trigger after that final end of round goal as well. So sometimes you have to lay eggs to the end of round goal, but then if you also have to keep egg space for here, is that maybe going to be a little bit of a challenge that players have got to watch out for?
Oh yeah, that's certainly a couple things to watch out for at the end of the game, like you say, with the end of round goal. And then another thing to watch out for, a lot of the big wingspan birds also have very limited egg spots. So once you have eggs on them, you might not get the game end eggs. So yeah, definitely a few things to manage there.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. I think there is definitely going to be some things to pay attention to with this one. Moving on to our next bird. We have got the Crested Pigeon. So this one, similar to that raven, but different in a couple of ways. You're caching food, but this time it's only seeds. You get to cache up to 8 of them. So, potentially stronger in some ways, but maybe weaker in others. Do you have a preference between this one and the raven?
I kind of like the raven better. It just like based on my experience with Oceania, I just like birds with big base point, so this 3 points is like, it's really hard for me to commit to it in early game without knowing if I have good food sources, but in late game I guess you can calculate if it works out or not. Yeah,
this is probably going to be one of those where, like you say, if you have that decision to make at the end, you're going to be looking at the food in your supply, you're going to be thinking, how much of this can I cache. I kind of think of this as maybe a little bit like looking between, in the European expansion, where you've got something like the common starling and the house sparrow. So, you've got that maybe slightly more points on one side, but maybe some more flexibility in the kind of food that you're caching or discarding on the other. So, yeah, I feel like maybe the raven, like you say, you're already starting on 7 points, so it already gets a bit of a head start. And just being able to cache more specific food. I can't think of many times when I've had 8 seeds ready in my supply to go. So, definitely going to be one of those ones just to... kind of calculate. Absolutely, it's all going to be situational. So we move on to our next bird here, and this is our first bird that lets you play additional birds. We've got the Goldfinch. So at game end, you play a bird, pay its normal food and egg cost, and then if it has a when played or game end power, you may use it. So more birds. This is kind of like a delayed double bird almost, where you're getting extra birds down. I feel like those are always good in this game.
Yeah, I mean, especially it's such flexible in different habitat and it's so cheap. Like, I'll be happy to play just as a starter bird in forest or the wetland, and then get the payoff at the end of the game. So
absolutely, it's one of those where, again, it's going to take a little bit of planning. You've got to remember that you've played it. I do find sometimes I forget if I play one of these game end powers early on, I forget about it at the end. So something to pay attention to. Remember. Make sure you've got a bird and the food, of course, to play at the end. But kind of feels like a good play, good little filler bird, just to especially get some more resources going in the early game, and then know that you can utilize it later on. And moving on, we have another bird in a very similar layout to the Goldfinch we've got here, the Greyheaded Mannequin. So this one, again, you play a bird, you pay its normal food cost, but you ignore an egg in the egg cost. And then again, if it has a when played or game of power, you may use it. So very similar, but saving yourself an egg, does that maybe give this one a bit of an advantage over the Goldfinch?
Yeah, I don't think it's too much. I mean, it's one extra point that make up for the bird points, but certainly the star nest is nice here. But I think they're pretty comparable.
Yeah, I think so. Like you say, you get the star nest, you same food cost, slightly lower point value, but you do save the egg later on. So yeah, I think they're quite comparable. I think I'd be equally happy playing either of those. Next bird on our list, we have the kakapo. So this is our first bonus card.
Very fun.
Very, very fun bird indeed to play. You get to draw 4 bonus cards.
Yeah.
Keep 1 and discard the other 3. I mean, who doesn't like a late game bonus card Campbell? So yeah, I feel like this is one of those where you're going to be trying to play this if you can whenever you draw it.
Yeah. I mean, this is just a direct upgrade from so many bonus cards from the base game, right? Like a lot of the base game forest bonus card bird costs 2 food, give you 4 point and a bonus card. But in this case, you get more choices, and don't forget the wingspan, the star wingspan as well. So it's great.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if I think about bonus card birds, I'm normally trying to play those late in the game anyway. So, there is some advantage to playing those a bit earlier, maybe in round 3 or in round 2, give yourself more time to work towards it. But yeah, my experience whenever I've played with this bird, when you're drawing 4 bonus cards, you're normally going to find one that you're going to score well off, even without trying. So. You can normally count on some extra points, and like you say, the star wingspan being a flightless bird, that helps for bonus cards, can help for some of the other objectives on these game end powers as well. So definitely a good thing to bear in mind. And next up we have another egg laying bird, like what we've already looked at before in the Black Swan, but this time it is the little pied cormorant, and here you are laying an egg on each of your birds with a platform nest. So again, very similar to what we looked at before, but yeah, maybe something to consider with getting some extra eggs from this bird.
Yeah, I think I'm still feeling this power out, but in most of the time, I'm just not feeling strongly because of the, food cost, and you only give you 4 points to begin with. So maybe late game, again, you have to kind of calculate if it's worth it. But early game, I feel it kind of hard to convince to play this bird in early game.
Yeah, I kind of think of this even more so. I mean, when we talked about the Black Swan, we talked a bit about synergy with bonus cards. I mean, this is kind of obvious one. If you've got Platform Builder, you're going to basically be getting an extra egg and an extra point, therefore, from each of those birds that you play. So definitely situationally can be good. But again, a lot of those birds that have platform nests, they don't have a huge amount of egg space. So something to think about, something to look at, but potentially it can be a good late game play. And next up, we have a very interesting bird power. Another very wordy one here. We'll try and help you through it. It is the Magpie Lark. So this power, you discard 2 eggs from your forest, and if you do, you play a bird in your grasslands with the normal food cost but no egg cost. And then again, if it has a when played or game power, you may use it. So lots to digest there. But bottom line, is this a good bird, or is this something that you avoid?
I mean, this is actually one of my favorite game end power. I just like it. You get to play another bird, but at the same time, you're already getting 5 points return for 1 food. That's just so good. It's hard to resist.
Yeah, I think this is potentially one of the strongest game end powers, and certainly of those that let you play additional birds. There is a little bit to negotiate here. You've got to have the eggs in your forest. You've got to have a space in your grass, and so you've got some restrictions there that you do have to work around. But like you say, it's already 5 points. None of the other double birds that we've seen that only cost 1 food are worth anywhere near that amount of points through all the expansions. So this can be a great one to get down. And again, if it hits your bonus cards, it can be a great way of filling those out. So yeah, for me, definitely one to keep an eye on. And moving on to our next bird we have here, the malaal. So this one is another game end laying eggs power. So you get to lay an egg on each of your birds with a ground nest. So yeah, probably not too much to talk about other than trying to compare it to these other egg laying powers. What do you think stands out maybe for this one compared to the others we've already looked at?
I mean, it has more egg spot, but it has even lower bird points, so I feel even less inclined to play this. I don't know how you feel about this.
Yeah, I think this is, again, we're probably just going to say this for all the egg laying ones, but if you've got the right kind of bonus cards, of course this one hits omnivore, so something to maybe bear in mind. And if you've not got anything else in the forest early game, you can at least get this down and know, okay, I've got something to work towards. If I can pick up some ground nest birds, I'm going to get some eggs at the end. And those birds do generally tend to have more egg spaces. So I think in this case, you've maybe got a little bit less to worry about than what we talked about the corant before. So we will move swiftly on to our next bird, which looks very, very similar. The orange-footed scrub fowl. So again, the same game in power. Lay one egg on each of your birds. With a ground nest, is this better or worse than the malaal, or is it hard to say?
In my vote, I feel like they're just as bad. Like, especially for 1 point, I feel like if this is not my first forest bird, I almost probably not gonna play it because it's just hard to justify for 1 point, you know?
Yeah, I feel like in general, my approach to a lot of these game end powers is wait until the end of the game and see if they fit with what I've got down. And like you say, playing a bird that's only worth 1 point. It can be so off-putting late in the game. So, yeah, maybe there's some situations where I've got a lot of ground nest down. Maybe I need something for Forester. You know, these are the kind of things I'm thinking about. Again, it's going to work for my bonus cards. So, maybe not one I'm desperately going to be looking out for, but situationally, could come in handy. So, moving on, we've got plenty more egg-laying powers coming up. This one being the Pacific Black Duck. So, for every 2 eggs in your wetlands, lay 1 egg on this bird. So definitely a little bit different to some of these other ones that we looked at before. Do you think there's potential here to score a lot of points?
I mean, again, based on my experience with the Oceania meta, where you are not really incentivized to lay a lot of eggs, I think that's I mean, technically that's you know, like, you can gain 6 points from this bird, but I don't think that happened very often. So I think the return might be lower than average. You know, at most you can make 8 points from this, but I think most of the time you probably don't make 8 points.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like you say, it's 8 points at most for those 2 foods. So, you know, I think it's going to be quite difficult to hit that with, again, the points you said about, you know, you're not really going to be laying eggs that much. It's quite hard to lay a lot of eggs in a single turn with the new boards and the restricted grass. And so, yeah, how likely is it that you're going to finish with 12 eggs in your wetlands?
12 egg spots, that's a lot.
Exactly. Like... you know, you've got to have those egg spots and then you've got to fill them. So, yeah definitely going to be a challenge. Again, maybe late game, if I have got those birds already down and got the egg spots filled, I might consider playing this. But I feel like playing this early with the aspiration of scoring points from it definitely is going to be a challenge. So
yeah, we're skeptical.
Absolutely. We will move on to yet another egg-laying power here. We've got the red-backed fairy wren. So this one, game end, lay 1 egg on each of your birds with a star nest, including this one. So star nests normally pretty good. You know, you might look at those for a bonus card or an end of round goal, and maybe get some extra eggs here from this kind of power. So is this maybe a little bit more appealing than some of the other ones we've looked at?
Yeah, I think so. This is definitely closer to, you know, like a safe or average play here. So, yeah. I think certainly when you think about you know, some of the star nest birds that you want to be playing, like say if you've got the bonus cards or the end of round goals coming up, pretty good. And yeah, you know, 4 points, 2 food, maybe get a few eggs as well. Again, situationally, you can kind of see at the end of the game. So moving on to the next bird, we've got another fairy wren. This time it's the splendid fairy wren. So this one again, we're laying eggs, but this time 1 egg on each of your birds with a wingspan less than 30 centimeters. So kind of the opposite of the black swan that we looked at earlier, which was looking at big birds. This time we're looking at small birds. But only 1 point for 2 foods. So it's a little bit off-putting here. I know. Again, this is the card that you're gonna hold on to the very end, you know, to decide whether you play this or not. Yeah. Like, no way I'm committing to this in early game.
No, definitely a challenge. I mean, one thing I kind of think about here is maybe some of these game end powers, you can get a bit of synergy by playing them both. So if we look at both of these fairy wrens, maybe you play them both, and you know, you're getting an egg on each of them from each power. And again, when we looked at some of those other ones, the specific nest types, the star nest counts for those as well. So could be potential, but yeah, I think playing this early on and with the aspiration of trying to score points, probably going to be a bit of a challenge. So we move on here to our last bird on the list, and it is another egg laying power. So we've got the Spotless crate here. Lay 1 egg on each bird in your wetlands, including this one. So very simple, very straightforward. You're maxing out at 5 eggs. So is that enough to incentivize you to play this bird?
So this is one of those birds that, you know, it gotta be my first wetland bird, or I'm not gonna play it. Even in late game, like 6 points, I can easily find so many other ways to make 6 points. So past round 1, I don't see any way I would play this bird.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this is a situation where you're kind of desperate for card draw. You don't have that wetland bird. You know, maybe you've got wetland scientist. Maybe you've got you know, some kind of end of round goal that this is going to help for. But yeah, I can't really see this being played as the last turn of the game. Just to get those eggs in your wetlands. Probably not going to be too exciting to be getting this one down. But there we go. We've had a run through there of the 16 game end powers. As we went through those, you will see there's quite a bit of variety. We have got lots of egg laying ones in there. We've got caching birds. We've got tucking birds. We've got those that let you play additional birds as well. So lots to choose from. Lots of exciting opportunities to score extra points. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. And thank you very much, Tay-Ray, for running through those birds with me. Hopefully you enjoyed that and found that useful. And as I said, we're going to be doing plenty more Oceania content on both my channel and Tay-Ray's channel, Tuck and Cash. You should go check that out as well. There'll be a link in the description. But until the next one, thank you very much for watching. I will see you then.